So I just want to quickly encourage some of you guys that are going through a season for which you are waiting on the breakthrough. You are waiting for God to deliver you into the promised land, but it seems like everything is in vain. You feel like it's been extended, dragged on too long, and you are just hopeless in some sense. And you are striving for a little bit of affirmation and encouragement, because if you're in that season, one thing you've got to understand is that at the very end, right before the big breakthrough and the big blessings come, God's going to allow a final big testing of your faith. And just like with the Israelites, when they were going from out of Egypt into the promised land, what happened was that he tested everybody. He tested everybody. Are you going to be obedient? Are you going to be faithful to me? Are you going to give me worship? But at the very end, none of them made it except Caleb and Joshua. And Caleb and Joshua, what happened with them was that they were shown this opposition. They were shown like big giants. They were shown these things that were out in the open. And obviously, if God had brought them that far, then why wouldn't he allow the Israelites to be delivered from all this other opposition, the people that were inhabiting the lands for them? And so you got to understand that even though it looks like it's crazy, even though it looks like, oh, the task is impossible, this final stretch, maybe it's not for me, I'm not educated enough, I don't know enough, I don't have the right people, I don't have the right resources, I don't have the right skill sets, the things just, it seems too daunting, it's so impossible. That's where you've got to be able to have faith, and you got to persevere and push through it and say, you know what, I'm going to do my part, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to lock in, and I'm going to be able to be diligent in what God has called me to do. And you're going to wait on him and surrender it all to him. And if you do that, what ends up happening is that God, he's going to look at your situation and says, you know what, I want to receive that. I want to receive that faith. I want to receive your obedience. I want to receive that and give you that blessing, because that's the final little push. That's the final little bit that you've got to be able to understand that's being tested and required of you to bring you over to the other side. And if you don't do that, and if you don't obey and recognize those situations, then you're not going to get there. And here's the sad part. A lot of people, they don't make it that far. If you argue 2 out of the hundreds of thousands of Israelites that didn't make it, it's a very small fraction of people from the Moses and the Israelite times that made it. And it's only 2 people. And so if you think about it now, what percentage of people fail because they didn't obey? They didn't have their test of faith passed. They didn't understand and recognize what the trials were and how God was using that to strengthen their character and to make and mold them so that they can be ready for that blessing. If you're not ready for the blessing, if you're not ready to steward the promised land, God's not going to bring you over to that side, because he knows you failed. And he also knows that you don't deserve that blessing in some sense. And again, I'm not trying to sound mean. Of course, the grace of God covers everything. But you got to also remember that God wants to give things to people that can rightly steward it, and to have them glorify God and give him worship in all of these things. So if you understand that concept, if you understand and recognize your situation in that manner, and you say, you know what, it's not a sign for me to quit. It's not a sign to say, you know what, maybe it's the devil speaking. Maybe it's not, maybe I misinterpreted the situation. It's not, none of that. What it is that God has given you a final big challenge. And that challenge is so impossible looking. It's so daunting. It's so crazy sounding that if you don't get beyond it, then of course you're not going to receive that blessing. And so I just want to encourage some of you guys today, if you're going through that situation, I'm going through that situation myself, and it's a little tough, but because mentally I understand where I am, and because I understand the word, and I understand the promises of God, I understand a lot of these things, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't hinder me, because I'm going to be able to stand firm and say, you know what, Lord, I did my best, and I wanted to do what was right at this time. And I want to be the modern day version of Caleb and Joshua. I want to be the modern day version of those in the Bible that were obedient and they didn't waver. And so you got to be one of those people. You got to be a chosen child of God that actually takes action and looks at it and says, you know what, I'm going to go above and beyond and do what you want me to do. And so this is where the wheat from the chaff are differentiated. This is where a lot of people fall short, and that's why they don't get to the promised land. So I just want to encourage some of you guys that are going through this situation right now. Be encouraged, because this is a test. This is a final test. And if you pass this test, you can get to the other side, and God can bless you and open those doors for you. You can get the breakthrough, you can get the blessing, and you can see the fruit of your obedience. And ultimately, you will have that reward. Don't sit there and think, oh, maybe I have some doubt, maybe I'm thinking in the wrong way. That's not what it is. Ask and you shall get it. If you believe, pray with the mentality that this is God's will for your life, because if it is God's will for your life, then surely it will happen. So you have to understand that concept. So love you guys. Be encouraged, guys. This is one of my final videos I think I'm going to do about God's timing. You guys know I'm doing a series about it, but just want to give you guys this quick encouraging word. More to come. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.